Maya had been dreaming of escaping the relentless city for weeks. When she finally booked the cabin in the remote forests of New England, she imagined crisp air, serene silence, and nothing but the sound of wind rustling through the trees. She drove for hours along winding roads until the forest thickened, and the last sign of civilization disappeared behind her. The GPS signal vanished somewhere along the ridge, leaving only a faintly visible dirt path that led to a secluded clearing, where the cabin waited, shadowed by towering pines. She stepped out of her car, stretched, and shivered as the cold air wrapped around her. The fog had already started rolling in, thickening with every passing minute, curling around the trunks and rising in ghostly tendrils. She tightened her jacket and approached the cabin, its wooden exterior dark and slick with moisture, windows like blank eyes staring through the fog dot inside. The cabin smelled of damp wood and old smoke. Maya set down her bag, letting the silence envelop her. She found the fireplace and tried to light a small fire, but the logs were wet. Sparks flickered and died, leaving only the gray gloom that pressed against the windows. Shadows stretched and twisted across the walls as she moved around, and for a brief, irrational moment, she swore she saw shapes forming in the corners, fleeting and indistinct. She shook her head and laughed at herself. "Just nerves," she whispered, but her voice felt fragile in the vast emptiness. Night fell quickly. She had just settled on the couch with a cup of tea when a faint tapping sound reached her ears. It came from the front door. She froze, listening. Tap, tap, tap. Her breath caught. Probably a branch, probably nothing. She tried to ignore it, but the noise grew louder, sharper, like someone or something was scratching at the wood from outside. Heart pounding, she approached the door. The fog pressed against the windows, thick and impenetrable, and for a moment, she could see a shadow moving just beyond the glass. She stepped back. It was just her reflection, right? But the shape, it seemed wrong. The shadow shifted and a faint blood-red smear appeared across the glass, like a hand had been pressed there and then wiped away. She dropped the bag she had been carrying and stumbled backward. Her flashlight revealed nothing but the warped reflection of herself. Shaking, she picked up her phone, hoping for a signal, but there was none. The cabin suddenly felt enormous and suffocating. Every creak of the floor, every whisper of wind through the cracks seemed to echo in the darkness. Then she saw it, footprints on the floor. Fresh, small, human-shaped, trailing from the door into the center of the room, and then stopping abruptly. She hadn't seen anyone enter. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to obey. A low thud came from the ceiling. Maya froze, her mind spinning. Something was up there, something alive, or maybe not alive. She grabbed a kitchen knife and moved slowly toward the stairs, each step creaking loudly. The thud repeated, now closer, now in rhythm with her own heartbeat. She reached the top and shined the flashlight into the hall. At first, she saw nothing, just the familiar walls lined with peeling wallpaper. Then she caught movement out of the corner of her eye. A figure hunched in the far corner, barely visible through the fog that had somehow crept inside. It wasn't human, or at least it didn't appear so. Its skin glistened as if wet, its eyes hollow, and its mouth stretched into a grin that seemed impossibly wide. She blinked, and it had moved closer. Maya stumbled backward, falling down the stairs, the knife clattering out of her hand. She scrambled to her feet and ran for the door, but the knob was freezing, slick with something sticky. She yanked it open, and the fog rushed in like a living thing. Outside, the forest was alive with sounds she couldn't name, snapping branches, wet thuds on the ground, a faint whisper of laughter that wasn't human. She turned, trying to get back into the cabin, and saw it. A body, a half-decayed, twisted figure lying just a few feet from the steps, its face pressed into the dirt. The jaw was broken, teeth showing, and the eyes were gone. Blood had pooled. Around it, thick and dark, the smell of iron so strong she gagged. She ran without thinking, branches slapping her face, roots twisting around her ankles. The trail led her deeper into the forest, but the fog had thickened to the point she could barely see her hands. Every step seemed to echo unnaturally, as if the forest itself were watching. Then suddenly she tripped. Something soft and wet gave way under her hands. She shined her flashlight down and froze. A severed hand, pale and slick with blood, lay on the ground, fingers twitching as if trying to grab her. She stumbled backward, falling into a small depression in the ground, and realized with horror that the forest floor was littered with body. Parts, torsos, legs, fragments of faces, as though the forest itself had been collecting them over decades. Her scream tore through the fog, but it was swallowed immediately. Then she saw them shadows moving just beyond the reach of the flashlight. Figures, tall and unnaturally thin, dragging what remained of their victims, silent and deliberate. One paused and turned, revealing a headless body still dripping blood. From the neck, its arms pointing at her in accusation. The shadows advanced. She ran blindly, branches whipping her face, roots tripping her. Her lungs burned, but she couldn't stop. She stumbled into a clearing where the cabin loomed once more, impossibly close. The door hung open now, black and inviting, as if it had been waiting for her return. She entered without hesitation. Inside, the air was colder than before, and the fireplace had ignited on its own, flames crackling violently. On the floor lay more bodies, their flesh pale and marred with deep cuts, their eyes staring blankly. And in the center of it all was the thing she had glimpsed earlier, the hollow-eyed figure, smiling, standing over a body split in two, blood dripping like a waterfall. "You shouldn't have come," it whispered in a voice that was half human, half something else, wet and gurgling. Maya tried to back away, but the floor seemed to twist beneath her, stretching and folding, swallowing her movements. The knife from the kitchen had returned to the table, bloodied and vibrating as though alive. She grabbed it and swung wildly, but her arms moved too slow, too heavy, as if underwater. The figure lunged. Time slowed. She caught a glimpse of its face, close-up skin hanging in ragged strips, eyes black voids, mouth full of teeth that were jagged and caked with blood. Then it was on her. Mia screamed as pain exploded through her leg. Something sharp had bitten. Down, tearing through flesh. She kicked, clawed, tried to escape, but hands wet, sticky, impossible grabbed her. She hit the floor, her vision swimming, the smell of blood and rot overpowering her senses. She tried to remember the way out, the car, the road, but the forest had changed. Nothing looked familiar. Every exit was blocked by fog, by shadows, by bodies that seemed to twitch when she looked away. Hours or maybe minutes passed. She had no way to measure time, no way to know how long she had been trapped. Every sound was amplified, the scratching of claws on wood, the wet thud of bodies moving, the whisper of the fog itself against her ears. She lay trembling in a corner, knife clutched to her chest, listening. Then she heard it, soft footsteps approaching, deliberate and slow. The hollow-eyed figure emerged from the shadows, dragging another victim behind it, gutted, head dangling by a few strands of sinew. Its gaze locked on hers, unblinking. The room seemed to stretch, walls bending, the ceiling lowering. "You can't leave," it said. Its voice echoed, filling her head with buzzing static. Maya tried to scream, but no sound came out. She swung the knife in desperation, connecting with something that squelched beneath her grip. A hand? Part of a face? She couldn't tell. The pain in her leg was sharp and immediate, and she realized she was bleeding heavily. Panic overtook her, and she scrambled to the door, but it was gone. Only wall, only shadow, only the smell of iron and decay. Her vision blurred, the blood from her leg spreading across the floor, mixing with the other viscera, turning the cabin into a river of red. She heard laughter now, high-pitched and inhuman, surrounding her from every direction. The shadows on the walls were no longer shadows, they were bodies, writhing, reaching, pressing against the thin veil of fog that separated them from her. Her heart was pounding, but her energy was gone. She sank to the floor, the knife falling from her hand. The hollow-eyed figure knelt beside her, cold breath against her neck. "You will stay," it whispered and pressed its hand against her chest. The cold was absolute, freezing her from the inside out. Her vision dimmed. She wanted to fight, to run, to scream, but her body refused. The fog seeped into her lungs, into her mind, and suddenly she was not herself. The world bent. The cabin, the forest, even her own body felt wrong, disconnected, like a dream she could not wake from. When the sun rose, or what she assumed was sunrise, the cabin appeared empty, silent. No blood, no bodies, no shadows. Only fog thick and impenetrable, curling around the trees. If anyone ever ventured near Blackwood Ridge, they would see a cabin, quiet, seemingly harmless. But if you paused, if you listened closely, you might hear the faint whisper of screaming carried on the wind. And sometimes, if the fog parts just right, you might see the faint outline of a girl trapped inside, eyes wide, staring, screaming. Silently, as she waits for someone else to wander too close. Maya was gone, absorbed into the forest, part of it now, another shadow among the many.
Please like and subscribe channel Fear Frequency for more horror stories. Thank you.